We'll see. We'll see. Put it away for now. So it's wonderful to be together. And I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Still, I think we can do that on Thanksgiving weekend. It is Yom HaHoda'ah, Day of Giving Thanks. And the word Hoda'ah actually is related to the word Todah, thanks. And this idea of gratitude is very deeply rooted within Jewish tradition. So it's one of the aspects of being an American Jew that we can lean into in a way that really has no conflict at all with what it means to honor our heritage. So I hope that for you, as it is for me, that this holiday is one that brings pleasure and togetherness and a sense of plenty and a vision for what kind of plenty we can build for everyone in our world. We begin on page 9, and I invite you to read responsively. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. 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 We welcome Shabbat with the lighting of Shabbat candles. It's my pleasure to call forward Florence to lead us in the reading, one of the readings on page 3, followed by the bracha on page 2. I'd like to invite you to rise, please.
As these Shabbat candles give light to...
Okay. We actually don't need the matches because we have the candle. Oops, go ahead.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our day be among those who kindle light. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need, to all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. You may be seated as we continue with Lecha Dodi on page 20. Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad Hishmi'anu el hameyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad L'shem ultiferet veliti la 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 Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki hi mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila la 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 Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela Hit orari kiva orech kumi uri shir daberi Kavod Adonai alayich nigla la 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 Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam b'simcha uv'tzola toch emunei am segula boi chala Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. We continue with Shalom Aleichem on page 24. May the angels of Shabbat surround us as we sing. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We We rise for Chatzi Kaddish, page 26. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shmei Rabbah, Bi'alma divrach rutei v'yamlich malchutei, Becha yechon uv'yomechon, U'v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Bagala, Uv'izman kariv, V'yimeru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach, Le'olam u'le'olmei almaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitpa'ar, Yitramam, Yitnaseh, Yitadar, Yitaleh, Yitalal, Shemei Dekudasha, Brichu, Le'ela, Min Kol Birchata V'Shirata, Tushbechata V'Nechemata, Damiran Be'alma, V'yimeru, Amen. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach, hamevorach le'olam va'ed. Hamevorach, hamevorach le'olam va'ed. Please join with me. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla, v'golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil ben yom uvein layla, Adonai tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol avavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ela asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. We read responsively, in a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi chanedar bakod. Okay, all right. So here's what's happening, is that every holiday has its own tune for Mi chamocha. And so I'm launching into Ma'asur when, of course, what comes out of my mouth but a High Holy Day tune. This is why we have a cantor. So whoever can help me with Ma'asur, we can be on season. Okay. Micha mocha bailim Adonai, Micha mocha nedar bakodesh, nora tehilot, o sefele, nora tehilot, o sefele, nora tehilot, o sefele, malechutecha ra'uvanecha, bokeh al yam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, zei li'anu ve'yameru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. V'ne'emar, Gifad Adonai et Yaakov, u'ge'alo mi'at chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Vezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol atah Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach Umorid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Baal Gevurot, Umidom Melach, Melech Memit, Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalalu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Continue silently through page 63. Oseh shalom bimramav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. We conclude our Amidah with a prayer for peace, a prayer for wholeness, calm, and oneness within the world. And so we turn our prayers to the hope for oneness within ourselves and within our neighbors and friends, even partners in this earth who we have not yet met, who are in need of healing. Mishaberach Avotenu v'Imotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel v'Leah, Hu Yavarech et HaCholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all those who are ill. Barry Abrams, Deborah Allison, Cynthia Baylor, Bruce Allen Bell, Annette Braverman, Jeff Chernow, Sandy Chernow, Sarah Cohen, Stephen M. Cohen, Andy Dorfman, Audrey Gelb, Bobby Glaberson, Stuart Geddes, Sally Gross, Sally Grossman, Rita Jaffe, Leonard Kaltz, David Lieberman, Spencer Leibowitz, Stephen Litvak, Keith Locke, Amanda McCall, Vagieb Hartieli, Harvey Ostroff, Sherry Panicelli, Penina Patesh, Sharon and Bruce Petroff, Kelly Quagliati, Harav Rachel Bat Shmuel Ufruma, Rebitzer David Rachmiel Ben Sarah Valevi, Selma Romoff, Ruth Schindelman, Samuel Schloss, Haley Shapiro, Beverly Tisdale, Cass Walsh, Judy Weiss. And I invite you, either here in the Molish Sanctuary or those of you at home, to add the names of anyone for whom you're praying for healing tonight by sharing those names aloud. With hope for healing in our hearts, we join together in singing Mishaberach, page 253. Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu, Mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. May the Holy One of blessing bring shalom to all of us, soon and in our day. As together we say, Amen. So some of you may have noticed that prior to the silent portion of our Amidah, I added a paragraph that we don't always add aloud. I mean, it's always there in the prayer book, but we don't add it aloud. So it's actually one of my favorite passages, and I remember it from the Gates of Prayer, which was the prayer book that preceded Mishkan Tefillah, which is the prayer book we used at my synagogue while I was growing up. And I always found it really powerful, and I think we're going to return to it in my remarks in a few minutes, so kind of keep it in the back of your mind. So Hanukkah is coming, and it's a wonderful, it's a joyous time for the Jewish people. It's also, interestingly, just given where it falls in the calendar this year and some years, is that it's really a holiday about gratitude, about being thankful for what? What are we thankful for on Hanukkah? The miracle of light. Tell me, Bev, what is the miracle of the light? Okay, so we have this Chanukiah. Well, at the time it was a menorah, right? Like this. It's got 7. And it's supposed to stay lit all the time. And there was enough oil to keep it lit for 8 days. 1 day. And it stayed lit for 8 days. Right? Okay, now let me ask you this. Was that a big miracle or a little miracle? Why was it big? 1 day. Okay, so it's a miracle, right? It's certainly not what you would expect. But let's think about what else we call miracles in the Torah and in our tradition, because this story is not from Torah. The 10 points for who can tell me where it's from. the miracle is miraculous, but what are some of the other miracles that we know of? The parting of the sea. Okay, so you've got the Israelites. We've been enslaved for 400 years. We come to this sea. All seems lost. God causes the waters to part. We cross through on dry land. It crashes in over our enemies who are chasing us. So that is one miracle. And then over here we have the oil lasted. So let me ask you again, is this a big miracle or a little miracle? Maybe not so big. So what is it that we're really celebrating? So I want to maybe take you on a little journey to figure out maybe an answer to that question. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is look at the handout that I gave you, and I will give some to our newcomers. The reason I copied this is because I wanted to compare it to something that's in the Siddur you have, and we don't have this in the Siddur that you have. Hi, welcome. All right, okay, so what is this prayer you're looking at? Does anyone know what this prayer is? Yes. The Al Hanisim, and when do we say it? On Purim, right? Okay, so the beginning part is a part that also is said on Hanukkah, okay? So I'll just say that from the outset. So the Al Hanisim is a prayer that we say on Purim, and we say it on Hanukkah. But the second paragraph is different for each one. I'd love somebody to read for us the second paragraph, of the Purim one. I can do it if you want. All right. Okay, so it says, in the days of Mordecai and Esther, the wicked Haman arose in Persia, plotting the destruction of all the Jews. That's a very bad thing, right? He planned to destroy them in a single day, the 13th of Adar, and to permit the plunder of their possessions, but through your great mercy, his plan was thwarted, his scheme frustrated. We therefore thank and bless you, O great and gracious God. Okay, excellent. Hoda'ah, Todah, gratitude. What are we grateful for? What's the miracle, the thing that, the way in which God, burst through and saved the day? What? We weren't destroyed. So we have this threat, God gets rid of the threat. That's a pretty straightforward, right? Now, if you look at your Siddur, I'd like you to turn to page 264. Actually, 265, really. Because on that page is the second paragraph for Hanukkah. I am not going to read through the whole thing, but you are welcome to at your own time. So basically, similar deal, right? We are up against an enemy, and the Jews are under threat, and God makes us victorious. Okay, so I'm near the bottom. It says, for you made a great and holy name in your world, and for your people Israel, you brought about the great triumph and redemption on that very day. And when your children came to the Holy of Holies and emptied your temple and purified your holy place and lit candles in your holy courts, okay, this is the miracle of the oil we were talking about, and established these 8 days of Hanukkah, grateful to acknowledge and to praise your great name. So here's something interesting that I didn't come up with. A teacher, Rabbi David Foreman, shared this thought, which is that unlike Purim, which praises our deliverance from evil and danger, the Hanukkah version praises our deliverance from evil and danger and also praises the fact that we stop and praise it. It's like we're saying, yay, we were saved, and yay, we came up with a holiday for us being saved. So why would that be? Why would Hanukkah specify that the actual holiday was in and of itself, and us acknowledging the holiday and giving the giving of thanks, why would that be important? So I want us to return back to the burning bush. So you remember we just read a paragraph that said, Everywhere we look, the bush burns unconsumed, right? What do we know about the burning bush? Moses comes along, he sees this bush, it's burning and it's not being consumed, and he takes off his shoes because he realizes he's on holy ground, and he speaks to God. Did I leave anything out? What? He might have called his name, but think about being in the desert. He spends all his time there. Bet he he does that thing with his eyes. It doesn't say this anywhere. This is my midrash. He does that thing with his eyes where they get super heavy. You start to just kind of like look at the same thing. And then you realize, oh, I have to look after sheep. Like it's hard to stay focused, right? The thing about the burning bush that always was so interesting to me is if you're in a desert, what are the odds that a bush will catch fire through spontaneous combustion from dryness and heat? Is it likely to happen never? Or is it likely to happen, every now and then at least? It's every now and then at least, right? So this was not something amazing. This was not like, oh, a bush is burning. It was something that Moses probably saw. He probably saw, with some frequency. And it wasn't all that exciting. I mean, it's fire, but it's like, it was like tumbleweeds. It wasn't large, and it wasn't really eye-catching. So what did Moses have to do in order to know that God was there in that place? That the bush burned unconsumed. What did Moses have to do? He didn't put out the fire. What did he have to do in his mind and his heart to be able to say, oh my gosh, God is in this bush? Right? Pray. Well, you could pray, but why would you pick there to pray? Here, I'll let you know what I'm thinking. And for this, I credit my father, who taught me this at many, many seders, which is that he had to pay attention long enough to realize that the bush wasn't being consumed. Rabbi Foreman shares an interesting sociological study that was done with college students where they were given cards from a deck, and they were asked to identify the cards. And one of the, every now and then, one of the cards was sort of a made-up card. It would be like, 3 of hearts, but it would have only 2 hearts on it. Or it would, like there would be one little thing that would make it, not an actual official card. But it looked similar to the other cards. So they did this study where they went through and all of the students were asked, what card is this? And as they went through, the ones that were false cards, they would either say like, it's the 2 of hearts or it's the 3 of hearts. And none of them said, well, this card is a dud. This is a false card. There's an idea that when we're looking at something, we see what fits into how our brain structures the world. So what kind of person does it take to look at a very mundane event in the desert, a bush burning, a dry scrub burning, and say, there's something different here? And he likens it, Rabbi Foreman likens it to, how when you have a gas fireplace? I have a gas fireplace. And imagine seeing a gas fireplace for the first time. You look at it and you think, wait a minute. These logs are not burning. There has to be another source for this fire. And you're right? It's a gas line. But in this case, what was the source of the fire? Because it couldn't be the burning of the wood, because the wood wasn't burning. What was the source of the fire? Who was the source of the fire? Right? So Moses had to be able to look at something and see it in a different way. He had to be able to be the kind of person who could be in his ensconced Egyptian princehood and still be able to look out and see the humanity of an Israelite being beaten. He had to be able to walk about his business and still notice that the Midianite daughters of Yitro were being harassed and needed someone to stand up for them. What does it take to be that person that stops and acknowledges that not everything that we're used to seeing is everything that is there? So Rabbi Foreman teaches that the miracle of the menorah is not that the oil lasted, but that we paid attention and were open to God and the transcendent long enough to see that the oil was lasting. And there's a teaching that the Israelites, the Jews, didn't actually make the holiday until a year later. They they went through the experience, but then they didn't declare it a holiday until a whole year later. That it took time to say, wait a minute, this is really happening to us. This is really the transcendent experience that we're having. The great miracle was our ability to recognize God's presence, to recognize that which didn't fall into the rubrics of what we expect to see. Would that each of us could build qualities of character that allow us to notice that which does not fit, that which falls into a different category than the categories that we so often rely upon. May the light of the Chanukiah illumine our eyes and our minds as we work to a world in which we see all the gaps in the need for justice, and we go to fill them like oil in a lamp. Shabbat shalom. So one of the things we do here at Beth Am, as many of you know, is we take an opportunity to acknowledge not just festivals like Hanukkah that fall during the year for the whole Jewish people, but also personal festivals, things that are worth celebrating in the lives of our members. And so this Shabbat, we are acknowledging all of the November anniversaries that we have in our congregation. And I'm wondering if any of those who have gathered have a November anniversary. I know there's at least one couple. And if I can invite you to come on up, we'd love to offer you a blessing. More than one? Just the one? Okay. So you got to tell us your name, the theme of your wedding. No, the date of your wedding, and maybe how many years.
We are Linda and Barry Braun, and we were married November 19th, 1967, which was 54 years ago.
Wow, 54 years, that's amazing, that's wonderful. I have a poem I want to share with you as a blessing. This is an expression of love that I utter in the hopes that you find this feeling in your heart, one for the other. Hidden beyond humanity's grasp, as our understanding is weak and our imaginations shallow, but in your face I see God, the brilliance of creation, the joy of life. In your embrace I feel God's love, the comfort of security, the peace of belonging. God is not hidden nor clouded in mystery. God is the connection between where we meet with each other. God is visible at every moment in the wonder of nature, the magic of the seasons, and our dependence upon the earth. Understanding God is as simple as opening one's eyes and in loving one another. May you have this year and many more to come of blessing and connection, of growth and depth and understanding of one another and the world, and feeling the love of all those around you in the joy that they feel for everything you bring as a couple. Mazel tov. And I'm going to invite the congregation to please rise as we continue with Aleinu, which is found on page 282, and I would love for the bronze to please open the ark for us, if you'd be so kind. Pardon me. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'ateit gidula l'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu kugoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkeinu kahem, v'goraleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim Lifnei melech, malchei ramachim, hakadosh baruch hu, shehu noteh shamayim veyoser haaretz, u'moshadikahu b'shamayim mima'al, u'shchinatu zo, v'govhei meromim, hu Eloheinu enon, emet malkeinu achasulato, kakatu v'torato, v'yadata hayom v'hashemota elevavecha, ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim, b'shamayim mima'al, v'al haaretz, mitachat ein od, v'nemar, v'haya Adonai, l'melech al kol haaretz, v'yom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. Mazel tov. Mazel tov. You may be seated for a moment. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth. Our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. Here in the Beth Am community, we remember the recently departed, those whose families are in the Shloshim period, the first 30 days of mourning. We remember Rabbi Mimi Poland-Ferraro, Director of Education of the Rabbi Harold B. and Elise Waintrup Religious School from 1995 to 2015. We remember Anita Levine, sister of Ray Waldman. We link their names to the names of those whose yahrzeits occur this week. Orville Adler, Anna Altschuler, Francis Bales, Sarah Bell, Martin Block, Charlotte Bogus, Bernard Braun, Samuel Brookstein, Lillian Cohen, Max Cutler, Andrew C. Davis Jr., Goldie Fair, Stanley Feldman, Helen Finkelman, Eric Fishman, Lillian Geboff, William Glassman, William Goldhirsch, Barnett Goldman, Sonia Sunny Goldstein, William Goldstein, William Wolf Goldstein, Beverly Gordon, Jack Hedrick, Rachel Kaplan, Irma Korn, Seymour Kovnat, Lillian Krasenstein, Mary Kushner, Reba Liss, Barbara Lopatin, Jeffrey Marcus, Henry Medvin, Marvin Nagel, Solomon Palat, Yusuf Partielli, Samuel Pomerantz, Fanny Rosenfeld, Terry Roth, Shirley Rothberg, Dorothea Raunick, Joseph Shippon, Anne Silberstein, Isidore Silberstein, Edward Silverstein, Hyman Singer, Fanny Stein, Max Sykin, John R. Tisdale, Albert Ulick, Leah Waldman, Esther Weiss, and Esther Wolf. I invite you to add any names to this list, anyone for whom you're saying Kaddish today. Zichronam livracha, may all their memories be a blessing. We rise as one congregation to join in the words of Kaddish, page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, B'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, V'chayachon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'la'olmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmeid kudusha b'richu, la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'ramav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all the world, and comfort to all who are bereaved, as together we say, Amen. You may be seated. It's my pleasure to call forward the inimitable, it's because of him that I get to use that word a lot, the inimitable Barry Tinkelman, to please share with us some announcements and greetings.
Thank you, Rabbi. Sure. Shabbat Shalom. I hope all of you had a happy Thanksgiving and were able to spend time with family and friends this year. Tomorrow morning, Robert Tornberg will lead Torah study on Zoom at 9 o'clock, followed by services at 10. Chanukah begins Sunday evening with the lighting of the first candle. The Kehillah celebration takes place Tuesday evening at 5 o'clock at the Badewood Shopping Center on the Fairway in Jenkintown. And be sure to join us here at Beth Am on the front lawn at 5:45 next Friday evening as we light our menorah before Erev Shabbat services, which will include the consecration of some of our younger members. We offered thanks last night at our family dinners. Tonight, I'd like to thank all of you here in the sanctuary and those of you who are watching at home and those of you who aren't watching for helping us get through the last 22 months as a viable and vibrant community. Times were tough. We weren't always sure what to do and what not to do, but here we are. We've moved carefully, cautiously, slowly, taking small steps to whatever the new normal will be. We've held services here in the sanctuary for several months now. The choir has led us in song twice this past month, and we've had some social events here in the building lately. We are still very COVID conscious, of course, so thank you, Toda Rabbah, for all of your help and cooperation over these last months. Wishing you a Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos, and happy Hanukkah. And be excellent to each other.
How could you forget? Consecration is going to be very special this year. I don't know if it's because of COVID, but we got a lot of new students this year. And it's hopefully, I think it'll be really meaningful to see all of the young children up here sort of taking their first steps into formal Jewish education. And they range in ages from our littlest to some of them are in 5th grade. So it's going to be a special evening. I hope you'll be with us. We're going to conclude our service with the singing of Adon Olam on page 322. After Adon Olam, Ein Keloheinu, not Adon Olam. After the singing of Adon Olam, we are going to continue with Kiddush and Motzi in the lobby. Mazel Tov to the Bronze on your anniversary, and thank you, Florence, for helping us to light candles, and thank you, Barry, for all of your help in services tonight, and thank you all of you for being here. Let's join together page 322. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kimalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Micheloheinu, Michadonenu, Michemokeinu, Michemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Shabbat Shalom.